Hello and welcome to this first episode of the Saudi Pro League TV YouTube channel. We are here. This is all a bit surreal for me, to be honest with you, because this started as an idea of mine back in September. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go on TikTok. I'm just going to start posting around a new league. I'll explain in a second why I started doing that, because I'm actually going to record the first ever episode of the Saudi Pro League TV podcast at the same time. But we are here. I've got to 10,000 followers on TikTok, which I'm really, really pleased about. I know it's, on TikTok these days, you could just do anything and seem to get a load of followers. But this has been consistent, talking to lots of Saudi football fans and building it up. And I really feel like there's a really lovely community there that we can really sort of thrive going forwards with. So I'm really pleased with that. And I just thought I want to take it to a new direction now, increase the quality of the content, and like I say, start a podcast, start a YouTube channel. This YouTube today is quite aptly named the top 3 things I have found out about the Saudi Pro League since watching it since back in September. Okay, so I'm going to start the podcast now as well, because it'd be silly to keep on repeating myself. But let's get this show on the road. So I'm just going to kind of welcome the podcast. Hello and welcome to the Saudi Pro League TV podcast. My name is Harry Hedges and I will be your host today, and I will always be your host. I have started documenting on the Saudi Pro League since September, mainly on TikTok. I was just explaining onto our YouTube channel. I say our YouTube channel, I've literally just started it. This is episode 1, but there's going to be plenty going forwards. But I started on TikTok. I said to myself, once I get to 10,000 followers, I will keep going with it. I will make sure that I am consistent. And from that point, I'm going to up the content game, because it means that maybe there's something there, okay? And like I said a minute ago, on TikTok, you can literally just get 10,000 followers for doing something silly. But I feel like there's a real community here. And the main point of this episode today is the top 3 things I've learned from covering the Saudi Pro League. But before I do that, I think it's important to talk about why did I start doing this, okay? And I think there's sort of 2 to 3 reasons on that front. Firstly, just to explain my background a little bit, I spent some time in the Middle East in 2016 for 2 years. I moved to Dubai, saw a wonderful progression over there of what's happened. I mean, it's just, it's very much the place to be. And just different layers to this, right? So firstly, I hated my job when I moved there. I hated my job before I went there. I was not the sort of person to be producing content, okay? I never took a selfie of myself. I was actually proud of the fact that I'd never taken a selfie of myself. Just not about that. I thought people who did that were vain and over the top and blah, blah, blah. I became a personal trainer in Dubai, and I had no way of getting any clients, so I started talking to the camera to find clients, okay? Now, I love fitness. I'll always be involved in fitness. It's always going to be my main full-time job. But through talking to the camera, I realised I started enjoying making content, and I particularly enjoy making content about things that I am passionate about. Now, there's only really 3 things that I am passionate about, 4 things that I am passionate about in this world: fitness, nutrition, WWE wrestling, and football. There's not much else going on here, I'll be honest with you, okay? And I love my football. I'm a massive Arsenal fan in the Premier League, and naturally, it made sense to me maybe to start talking about Arsenal or the Premier League, what have you. I actually started a bit of a TikTok page, and I'll talk about that a bit later on in one of the points I'm going to make later. But I'll be honest, and I don't know if it's just because Man City have been so dominant over the last few years or so, or whether it was because Arsenal threw it away towards the end of last season, and it felt very emotional. But I'm a bit bored of the Premier League, I'm not going to lie. I mean, people talk about VAR. It can't be VAR because loads of countries have VAR, including the Saudi Pro League. But it just feels a bit in my mid-30s, and my father went through a similar thing, just a bit disengaged with English football a little bit. I also don't like the idea that it has such an emotional connection for me. It affects my weekend, it affects my day. Whereas just watching football and documenting football and learning more about football across the world is extremely intriguing for me. And no doubt the Premier League and a lot of the European players moving to the Saudi Pro League and the transfers that happened over the course of the summer definitely interests me quite a lot. But what I would also, and it also makes it easier in the sense that there's players I know more about. But also I went to the Qatar World Cup in 2022, and I saw a lot of media portrayed about the Middle East in this country that I didn't particularly agree with, to be honest with you, okay? I'd lived there, I'd been there, I'd seen it. And then, for example, I went to the England-Wales game in Doha in November 2022, and I had people saying, why would you go there? You can't get a beer. Now, whether you can get a beer or not, that's a very small thing, right? But I knew full well that you could get a beer. And that gives you an idea of what people in this country think about football and what you have to be able to do and can't do. But also, it sort of heightened the fact that there were maybe other things being said that wasn't completely true as well. And I went to Doha. I think we all agree the 2022 World Cup was absolutely fantastic. And I also did a video when I got back from Doha, and I was walking through just down my street here, and I did a video about how sad English fans can be, because I saw Argentinian fans having a great time with very little drink on them. Saudi Arabian fans, after the Salem Al-Dazari goal, more of that to come when they beat Argentina, having a wonderful time in Doha without any drink on them. But English fans didn't, well, some English fans went, but a lot of English fans didn't go because they thought they couldn't get a drink, and I thought that was quite sad. And that actually went on to the news in Doha. It went pretty viral on the internet, which was a crazy sort of thing. So I suppose a bit of an interest in that as well, that kind of idea that it's not quite what the media portrays over here, and that intrigues me because I've lived it and I've seen it and I've breathed it. So yeah, it's just a combination of the content, the fact that I've lived in the Middle East, the fact that I love my football, and I'm a bit bored of the Premier League and open-minded to sort of new ideas and producing that content. And that kind of leads me to this YouTube video, this podcast, around the top 3 things that I have identified since September, which isn't a long time, sort of 6 months or so. I didn't even post most of December because I got COVID and was a bit out of action during that time. But what are the top 3 things that I've recognised as a neutral going into the Saudi Pro League with a completely open mind? The first thing I noticed straight away is there's a big plan here, okay? This is not China, this is not Russia. You know, when people like Oscar and Hulk and these kind of players were going abroad to play there, it felt quite flash in the pan at the time. It didn't feel that sustainable. Now, I can understand why people might make comparisons, but from what I know about the personality of people in the Middle East, in the sense of in Dubai, I mean, they made a palm tree island. Now, I know obviously it's very, very different from different countries, but there is this mentality of, we're going to make this work, okay? And we're going to throw finances at it and we are going to make it work. And I just feel like there is that kind of, I saw the 2022 Expo in Dubai come together to the crescendo that was the Expo that ended up being in 2021 in the end. And I know Saudi has the 2030 vision. I know that obviously it looks like if they haven't got it already, it's pretty much there, the 2034 World Cup. And that's just super exciting. And what an exciting thing to be a part of. In my own way, in a foreign land, you know, but it's just something that I feel like it's just exciting, it's progressive, there's a plan. It's not just a football plan, of course it's not. Football is pretty much the full stop, the exclamation mark. It's, you know, train lines, new hotels, building houses, having expats come over, train lines, the money spent on the airport, the cities, and it's going to be a super futuristic country, no doubt about that in my opinion. And I just think it's just exciting, and I'm 35 years old and there's plenty of room for excitement going forward, so why not keep an eye on it? And that is so abundantly clear. And I think in this country we like to kind of, no, they're only signing players who, you know, are coming towards the end of their career. Well, that's not true. Gabri Veiga, Milinkovic-Savic, Ruben Neves, St. Maximum, these are guys in their prime / younger. Okay, yes, Ronaldo, but of course, if Ronaldo's willing to go to the Saudi Pro League, of course you're going to take him. Neymar, you know, these are players of expert level and world superstars that is going to bring even more eyeballs to the product. But there's plenty of quality coming through, and the big plan isn't just big summer transfers. It is also building the foundations up. Look at Shabab Stadium, a wonderful new stadium they got there. They're going to work on some of the clubs outside of the top 4. People, I think it is only Nasir, Hilal, Ittihad and Hali, because this is the likes of, you know, Mahrez, Firmino, Kante, Fabinho, Benzema, you know, Neymar, Mitrovic, Ronaldo, Mane. These are players that have Laporte, so these are players that have gone there for sure, but I think there's going to be a trickling down effect. And the fact that the other clubs can only have, the foreign amount of players is going to go up to 10, that's only going to mean more players coming over, right? There's a plan of action, there's changes, you can just see it, you can feel it. Female referees, There's the Asian female tournament coming up soon as well. So there's this whole sort of open mind of new ideas, which like I say, is extremely exciting. And just touching on the money being spent in the transfer window and everything, like, this is nothing new, okay? Like, it's just something that people are homing in on the Saudis. Look at Chelsea. Chelsea spent £1 billion in a year under Todd Bowley, okay? And it's been a mess. I mean, look, it remains to be seen, but wonder kids on long year contract, we will see. But so far, nothing. And crazy output of money. Look at Barcelona. Barcelona are absolutely skint. They have no money. They've bought Coutinho for 150 million. They bought Dembele for silly money. They've leased out some of their rights over the years to be able to bring in Lewandowski. You know, all this kind of stuff. And what I've sort of said, and this is a big picture I've put onto my TikTok page, people are quite quick to mock the... and I don't really understand how people do this. This kind of like, oh, so the Saudi Pro League is outside of the top 50 in the top leagues. Well, how do people measure that? Yeah, that might be the case now. But let me tell you now, that's not going to be the case for much longer. If anything, I'm going to have a massive wager. Well, I won't have a massive wager, but I will be very confident that that number's going to go into the top 15, top 10. And I would much rather be a part of and be intrigued by and excited by a league on the way up than maybe a Spanish or a French league at fourth and sort of stay in the same stagnating. Now, of course, Spain have Real Madrid and Barcelona, so they're always going to be fine. Madrid seem to have this crazy amounts of money to get Bellingham, and it seems like they're going to get Mbappe and what have you. So I think they're always going to be fine. But my point being is there is room for another league, and that is exciting from the Saudi Pro League. But I do not understand how they're, below the Polish and the Belgian league. To me, that makes no sense. But anyway, I think it's just been a massive force of players come over quite quickly and haven't had a chance to update the league, I don't think. But anyway, it's all very exciting indeed. Number two, the quality of the current players in the Saudi Pro League, okay? Like, this is, like, I wasn't expecting this. I thought it'd be quite a poor quality. I watched the David Beckham documentary when he went to the MLS in, like, the mid-noughties, and it was abundantly clear that the player quality there was very, very bad. And that affected Beckham, and you can see why he got out of there quite quickly, despite enjoying living in that country. But the quality's there in the Saudi Pro League. I think... I played on FIFA with a lot of the teams, and you play with certain players, you think, actually, these are all right. I think of Sultan Al Ghanam at right back for Nasir. I think about Abdullah Hamid, the right back for Hilal. I've never seen a guy so fit in my entire life. He does not stop running, that guy. Salim Al-Dazari. I mean, where were you when he scored that goal against Argentina? I was in Dubai, actually, funny enough. Comment below where you were on Salim Al-Dazari's goal, because that might actually be another reason why I am affiliated with it, because I remember that goal. It was a massive moment. Obviously, Argentina went on to win the World Cup. But I remember that goal, and I remember on TikTok and Instagram the next day, like, the Saudi fan reaction was so funny. I remember one guy, like, trying to jump over a wall for no reason. I think another guy broke a door. Like, the reaction to that goal, and what a goal it was. But what a player he is, by the way. He is just fun, isn't he? He's just a tricky winger, gets a lot of goals. He's busy, he's active, he's fit as anything. Great player. And even people like Anderson Talisca, these kind of guys are already there. Just a real level of quality. And that's important because, yes, you can build a league from the bottom up, but if you've got the core foundations, and as I said earlier on, there is a plan here not just to bring in the best players. Yes, I think Mo Salah will come next year. And yes, I think they'll bring in more players of that sort of level. By the way, Liverpool won't want to see him go. So even though they get older players, they still get players that current big clubs would like to keep, so don't forget that. But I think there'll be more and more younger players coming through, but also looking to develop the current Saudi players. And, the likes of, if he does, Mo Salah, but certainly Ronaldo, Neymar, Milinkovic-Savic, Ruben Neves. I mean, Ruben Neves is already a young guy, but my point being is the quality these guys have got is only going to help the young Saudi Arabian players. And with a vision towards 2034, a bit like South Korea, could they get to a semi-final or something like that? That's got to be something that they're looking at to develop the international team at the same time. And from that, like I say, those core players, the players coming in, you're going to get a better and better and better product over the course of time. And the last thing to talk about, I think, the top three things I've noticed, is the fans. Now, I touched on earlier on about how I started a little Arsenal page on TikTok, and I've never had so much abuse from English fans in my entire life, okay? I couldn't get started on it because it was just I wasn't being particularly outrageous about other clubs, just something that they just didn't like to see a man talking about his football club. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen in the Saudi Pro League with maybe rival clubs, but as a foreigner coming in, and it can be quite easily, I could be quite easily dismissed as someone who, you know, do not be, you're not welcome here or whatever. It's been the complete opposite, okay? The fans have been so welcoming, they've been encouraged, they've been engaged. Bear in mind, I get certain pronunciations of clubs and players wrong. I'm learning. Bearing in mind, I don't know the full details of the league. I've got a good idea, much better than I used to, by the way. And when I speak to people in England about the Saudi Pro League now, it's abundantly clear how much I've learned. You know, sometimes I think I need to learn more, but I speak to certain English fans and people haven't got a clue, right? They don't know who Ronaldo plays for. It could be Halal, it could be Nasir. It's really, really bad over here. So that helps. That makes you feel a lot better. But also, the welcoming nature of the fans in the sense that the comments I've been getting have been like, when you coming over, bro? Are you gonna, you know, let's meet up and that. And that just wouldn't happen in this country. Like, let me tell you now, that does not happen. So I'm looking to come over sort of at the end of the year, and it'd be amazing to start some sort of, you know, this is the thing about this community feel that I feel like that has been built here. It's not just a viral video. There's been a lot of talk. And the fans have been so welcome. And I just don't think that would happen in England, to be honest with you, because we're just not about that, particularly in the football world, okay? It's very tribal. It's very tribal in the Saudi Pro League, I'm sure, but I could be wrong, but it's your team and everyone against the world. And certainly it doesn't feel like me coming over in this sort of way has been like that at all. And I'm extremely thankful for it, because there's nothing worse than starting something and feeling like you're not welcome. So thank you so much for that. But yeah, that's actually, I'm going to talk about a secret fourth one. The reason I call it a secret fourth one is because I'm going to do a video about this, okay? But another thing I've noticed quite heavily is, and it's what I touched on earlier on around when I lived in Dubai, when I went to the Qatar World Cup, but the media around the progression of the Saudi Pro League has just been, in my opinion, horrendous and basically a lot of lies. I mean, I posted an article recently on TikTok about Riyad Mahrez's girlfriend's reaction, and she didn't want to move country. That's actually, a lot of people don't want to move country, but it was portrayed into when she was crying, it was because she was having such a terrible time there. But if you actually read the article, she was saying how wonderful the Saudi Arabia is. So there's a lot of that, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of things going on there. You don't hear a lot of the good news. You hear a lot of the bad news, like Jordan Henderson and things like that. So I'm going to do a whole nother video on that. That's one for another day, but something I've definitely sort of noticed as well. But that's enough from me. I think I want to keep it under 10 minutes. I think I've definitely gone over that. I actually had to record this twice because I didn't turn the camera on the first time. But we will learn and get better over the course of time. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for the podcast. And yeah, I'll be back on TikTok. I'll be looking to do these sort of once a week or so. Please subscribe. It just means that it doesn't feel like you're posting to nobody. If you got to the end of this video, thank you. Subscribe, comment below, like it, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I will look forward to catching up with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.